Like my main computer is not working. So all of a sudden it didn't work. So I'm on my laptop. So hopefully that should be okay. Welcome. Hare Krishna. Namaste. Let me just turn on my recorder here. Got thrown off a little bit by the technological aspects here. Om Jnana-timirandasya Gyananjana Shlakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. We are in the month of Kartik, the sacred month of Lord Damodar. It extends from October 21st to November 19th from the Pratama, how do you say it? Pratama. Anyway, till the full moon on November 19th. It's a month long where we try to, as Vaishnavas, as devotees of Krishna, as bhakti yogis, we try to rededicate ourselves to the lotus feet of Krishna and increase our meditation and our chanting and our mantra and our prayers and our shravanam kirtanam, our hearing, our reading, our smaranam, our remembrance of Krishna. My talk today, I will hope that you do take the opportunity to increase your bhakti yoga, your spiritual practice during this most sacred of all the 12 months. My talk today is based on the life of Narottama das Thakur. Monday was Narottama Das's disappearance day. I have not spoken about Narottama before, so ever in a talk. So I thought this may be a nice change to speak about Narottama. My title is Narottama das Thakur, Incarnation of Devotion. That is exactly what he is, my friends. And I'm really going to more or less read excerpts from the book called Narottama Vilas, or the Life and Pastimes of Narottama, by Narahari Chakravarti. Narahari Chakravarti was a contemporary of Narottama, and also he may have been a contemporary of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, not sure. Just after Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Nityananda, Advaita, Gadadhar, Srivas Pandit, after they left the planet. Narottama appeared shortly after that, so he was not their contemporary, but he followed shortly after. Prabhupada has many of Narottama's songs. He's a wonderful singer and writer of songs, and he's like as it says, the incarnation of devotion. And Chaitanya actually predicted his appearance before he came. Prabhupada has sung many of his songs on recordings, which are available, the bhajans in particular. And he has done extensive commentaries on those songs as well, because they're beautiful poetry. They're beautiful Bengali poetry. Bengali is, you can't beat Bengali for songs and poetry, my friends. At least that is my humble opinion. In his Pratana, he sings Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu, Daya Kora More. This is Narottama. Toma vina ke dayalu jagata sangsare, patita pavana hetu, tava avatar, mosamo patita Prabhu napaibear. Which means, my dear Lord, please be merciful to me. Who can be more merciful than your Lordship within these three worlds? He's speaking to Chaitanya. You appear as an incarnation just to reclaim the conditioned fallen souls. But I assure you that you will not find a soul more fallen than me. That's just one verse. Beautiful. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appeared in a dream to Lokanath. I'm going to read various excerpts here. That's what I'm going to do. Appeared in a dream to Lokanath Goswami, who was a contemporary at that time. And before long, a prince, he said in the dream. He said, before long, a prince named Narottama will become your disciple. He is a very talented devotee, full of love and devotion. And he is empowered to save the fallen conditioned souls from hellish life. His enchantingly beautiful kirtan has the ability to melt even wood or stone. Can you imagine, my friends? It can melt wood or stone. So that's what we have here with the appearance of Narottama. Now, save fallen conditioned souls from hellish life. Well, my friends, to be honest, I don't know if life could get more hellish. Well, I'm sure it could. Than what we have now. Because it's been pretty hellish in the last year and a half, I dare say. What is the most precious gem? The merciful Lokanath Goswami remained in Vrindavan. Later on, showered his blessings upon his dear disciple, Narottama Das. By the mercy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Lokanath Goswami obtained the precious gem of love of Godhead. That's the most precious gem. When Chaitanya was still here on the planet, one day as he was dancing with his associates during a kirtan, he suddenly looked up in the direction of Sri Ketari village in Bengal. A peculiar look appeared upon his face and tears came to his eyes, and he began to cry out, Narottama, Narottama, again and again. The ocean of mercy Nityananda Rai shouted with joy, and Haridas Thakur, Vakreshvara Pandit, and others were inexplicably filled with unbounded happiness. Witnessing this unusual behavior of the Lord, the devotees began talking amongst themselves as follows. Prabhu is repeatedly calling out the name of someone called Narottama. It seems that this Narottama is extremely dear to the Lord. Perhaps he's about to make his appearance. Oh, who is that fortunate man who will have such a son? The woman who bears him within her womb certainly is the most fortunate lady in this world. Obviously, the Lord has some plans for this Narottama to fulfill his mission. In this way, rumors of Narottama's impending appearance spread far and wide. A similar event had taken place when Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was traveling to Nilachala, Jagannath Puri, and then had suddenly cried out the name Srinivas, Srinivasacharya. This Srinivas they're referring to here is not Srivas Pandit, one of the Panchatattva. This is, just so this is clear, this is a separate personality, Srinivas, and Srinivasacharya will become a contemporary of Narottama das Thakur. Okay, that's really what this amounts to. So these pastimes were widely broadcast, and so everyone eagerly awaited the appearance of Narottama. O readers, please hear attentively as Narahari Das narrates Narottama Vilas. This is his birth, this segment. The wheel of time turned until finally, during the 6th hour of the full moon day, he was born on full moon, just like Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, in the month of Magh. Magh is January to February. During the 6th hour of the full moon day in the month of Magh, when all auspicious signs became visible, Narottama Das was born to fulfill the mission of the Lord. His mother, radiant with beauty, wept joyfully as she lovingly gazed at the charming face of her son. A divine effulgence illuminated the delivery room, and happiness swelled within the hearts of everyone present. From that moment, the village of Sri Kaitari became a most auspicious place. The residents suddenly felt purified, as if cleansed of all misgivings. How would you like to feel cleansed of all misgivings, my friends? They trembled with ecstatic emotion. Tears filled their eyes, and they spontaneously chanted the holy name of the Lord with devotion. The people rushed to the house of Krishnananda, carrying gifts for the newborn child. Krishnananda is his father. The delighted Datta Mahashai, Krishnananda Datta. Mahashai is a respectful title that they use in Bengal. So this is the delighted Datta Mahashai, Krishnananda, his father, warmly welcomed everyone without taking his eyes off the face of his son for a second. He's a bit taken with him, I guess. Krishnananda's exalted father profusely distributed charity to the singers, musicians, and others present for the protection of his grandson. There was no woman in the world as fortunate as Narottama's mother, Narayani. By the grace of the Lord, she was granted the divine vision to see Gauranga, Nityananda, and Advaita dancing ecstatically in her home. Not bad, huh? Then, now they're talking about the Namakaran and the Anaprashan. Namakaran is the name-giving ceremony, which can happen anywhere from 10 days after the birth up to 6 months, typically. And the Anaprashan is the first grains ceremony. These are both sanskaras, traditional sanskaras, Dashavida sanskara. There are 10 main ones and 16 altogether. So this is what he explains here. On an auspicious day, Krishnananda, the father, arranged for the ceremony of offering rice to his son. So this has got to be probably 6 months after the birth, because they don't start feeding grains until much later on. The astrologer present on that joyful occasion noted that all the auspicious signs present. He noted all the auspicious signs present in the child's body. So he could read physiognomy, sumudraka. He could read the signs, the bodily signs, the markings, like the lines in the palm, etc., and determine what kind of soul this was. He predicted that the boy would become an illustrious person, saying, "This baby will grow up to be the greatest of men. Therefore, his name should be Narottam." Nara Uttama means greatest of men. That's how they got it. Here in the West, we just willy-nilly give names. And that's not how you're supposed to do it. You're supposed to look at the birth chart and see who you got, who's come into your life, into the world. You can also use the syllables that are connected to the moon's constellation. You can do that. But it is good to look at the chart as a whole. This I know from many, many years of experience, my friends. The festivities went on happily until Krishnananda tried to feed his son some rice. So this was the Anaprashna, first grains. To everyone's dismay, the child refused to eat. Although they coaxed him again and again, the boy repeatedly turned his head away, refusing to eat. The festive atmosphere was thus replaced with anxiety as everyone nervously looked at one another, not knowing what to do. The thoughtful astrologer then reassured everyone, saying, "Don't worry, this baby will not accept food unless it has first been offered to Lord Vishnu." So, that was a bit of a revelation there for the family. The rice was then offered to Lord Vishnu and once again given to the child. To everyone's relief, the baby happily devoured it. From that day onward, realizing the value of prasad, or food first offered to Krishna on the altar or even in prayer before it is taken by you as a human or by us, we first offer it to Krishna. And then it's not ordinary food, it becomes prasad or the mercy of God. And that removes negative karma. It not only removes negative karma, there is no negative karma attached to it. There's no negative reaction. Okay? That's why in practicing bhakti yoga, that is what we do and or what we're encouraged to do. Okay. The rice was then offered to Lord Vishnu and once again given to the child. To everyone's relief, the baby happily devoured it. From that day onward, they realized the value of prasad. Krishnananda ordered, "Only food that has been offered to Krishna should be given to my son." Krishna, Vishnu, same thing. Krishna, the two-armed form, Vishnu, the four-armed form of God. Although the worship of Lord Krishna was customary in the family, they were Krishna devotees. From the time of Narottam's birth, everyone became much more attentive to the Lord's service. Interesting, huh? So he goes on, Narahari Chakravarti goes on, he says, the strength of Narottam's intellect could not be manifested by an ordinary man. Lord Nityananda, Advaita Acharya, and other foremost associates of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu always thought of Narottam's well-being. Now they're gone. They're no longer on this plane. They're not gone. They're around, but they're no longer on the physical plane. So they're still looking after him. That's what you're being told here. It is said that anyone who was fortunate enough to see Narottam even once would forget his fear of material life. A lot of fearful people out there right now, my friends. This is exactly the plan. The plan was to make everybody fearful, scared out of their wits. We're all going to die. Yeah, we've got the worst pandemic imaginable. Yet less than 1% of the people have died. But everybody's has been driven mad with fear. Something's not right here, my friends. As Narottam traveled along the road, he constantly sang the glories of Lord Gauranga while streams of tears rolled down his face. It's all heart. Bhakti is heart. It's expressing love through the heart. The relationship with God, yes, we want the philosophical, the intellectual. We need the philosophical grounding. We need the understanding. It's imperative. It's indispensable. But that's not the ultimate goal. The ultimate goal is to open the heart in love of God. That's the ultimate goal. So this is Narottam. Those who were fortunate enough to gaze at his face became blessed with a great feeling of mental satisfaction. The villages where Narottam stopped for the night became blessed by his divine presence. Whether male or female, anyone who had a chance to associate with Narottama Das during his journey would tell their friends and family members about his wonderful qualities. They said, even a golden champaka flower would surely be ashamed to see this young man's complexion. Look at his beautiful face and large eyes. How superb are his nose, cheeks, eyebrows, forehead, and ears. Someone said, "Look how long his arms are. What a broad chest he has. Who are the fortunate parents of this extraordinary man with such beautiful knees and feet?" Wow, even the knees, they said were beautiful. I haven't heard too many people talk about knees before. Someone else said, "He cannot be an ordinary human being. He must be a demigod, or else the son of a king." He was an incarnation of devotion. Bhakti avatar. Being so greatly influenced. Oh, wait, another person remarked, "How sad it is that such a young man has become apathetic toward family life." He's detached. He was practicing renunciation, vairagya, from a young age. Being so greatly influenced by Narottam's presence, no one wanted to return home. People brought many things for Narottam to eat, and someone would always offer him a comfortable bed to sleep on at night. Narottam could not eat or sleep, however. He would spend the night performing kirtan. Everyone felt sad to see how Narottam's body had become smeared with dust. He'd be rolling in the dust out of ecstasy of love for God. In the morning, none of the villagers would want to let him go, but Narottam begged for their permission and then departed. This was the typical scene that occurred daily during his journey to Vrindavan, for Narottam stole the hearts of everyone he met. Can you imagine? He's a heart stealer. Devotees who are really tasting love for God, they're in the fire, as we've always said. They're heart stealers because of their joy and their beauty and their purity and their tenderness and their gentleness and their sensitivity, their compassion. And they light up. There's this light you can see around them. So he made it to Vrindavan. He met with the Goswamis. So he was contemporary to the 6 Goswamis. Sri Rup, Sri Sanatan Bhatta Raghunath, Sri Jiva Gopala Bhatta Dasa Raghunath. There's the 6 Goswamis. That's actually a line from one of his songs. And the 6 Goswamis were profusely writing books, some of which we have read. I haven't read them all. I've read a few. And they were now sending these books back to Bengal in a kind of a caravan. That was the plan. So Narahari says, after consulting the elder devotees of Vrindavan, Jiva Goswami selected an auspicious date for sending the Goswami's manuscripts to Bengal. It had previously been predicted by the Lord himself, by Chaitanya, that these books would be widely distributed throughout the land. Jiva Goswami handed over all the precious manuscripts to Srinivas Acharya. This is the Srinivas, contemporary with Narottam. They're very close, the two of them. For it was he, Srinivas, who was responsible for taking them to Bengal. In this regard, Narottama das Thakur Mahashai had composed the following verse. When shall I see the... Well, no, I'm not going to read this verse. Anyway, he's responsible for taking them to Bengal. There's a lot of material here, my friends. I don't know that I'll get through it, but I've just tried to select some really, really good excerpts that kind of encapsulate his life for you. So what happens to the books, we might wonder. After taking the blessings of all the senior devotees, Srinivas Acharya and Narottama das Thakur started their long journey to Bengal. The carts were filled with the priceless treasure of books. These went ahead while 11 armed guards from Vrindavan followed. Armed guards. Why? Because there are dacoits, there are highwaymen, there are thieves on the road. And if they think you got something worth taking, they will stop you and take it, or worse. With an agitated mind, Sri Jiva Goswami accompanied the party as far as Mathura. The residents of Mathura greeted them ecstatically, and they rested there for the night. Their departure the following morning, however, was a most pathetic scene, because no one could bear to see them go. After a long journey, Srinivasacharya, Narottama das Thakur, and Shyamananda Prabhu finally reached Bengal, and so they headed through the forest in the direction of Vishnupura. In the midst of the forest, they came to a village and so decided to stop for the night. Generally, they were extremely cautious about protecting the books at night. Well, they had 11 armed guards, right? However, on this night, due to the desire of the Lord, they all fell sound asleep. Meanwhile, the local king, Viraham Vira, received a report that many carts filled with jewels carried by a number of wealthy persons had arrived at their village. Well, that was incorrect intelligence. Upon hearing this, the king at once sent a gang of dacoits to rob them. He sounds like a modern day king, like a Kali Yuga king, doesn't he? Sure does. I read about those kind of kings in the newspaper nowadays. The dacoits easily robbed the sealed trunks and carried them to the king. Without even opening them, the king suddenly became overwhelmed by feelings of great awe, and so bowed to the ground again and again. Why is the king bowing to the ground when he hasn't even opened the chests to see what's in them? Completely bewildered, the king wondered, what has happened to me? What kind of jewels are in these cases? Saying this, the king began to weep inexplicably. In this way, the goddess of devotion herself, Bhakti Devi, transcendentally tricked the king. Yeah, I dare say. Later on, feeling doubt about the robbery, the king secretly opened the trunks. I don't know why he didn't do it openly. Secretly opened the trunks and found that there were books inside, not gems. Well, these are the gems, the books, right? But being greatly repentant, he cried out, "Alas, what have I done? I do not know who these gentlemen are that I have hurt. If I am fortunate enough to meet them, I shall certainly seek their refuge and return the books." Sitting alone in a secluded place, the king lamented in this way. The next morning, when Srinivasacharya and his party awoke, they were horrified to find that the precious works of the Goswamis had been stolen by dacoits. Can you imagine? Their hearts must have sunk down to their feet. The scene of indescribable misery that followed is too heartbreaking to even begin to describe, says Narahari. Throwing themselves on the ground, the devotees cried out loud in utter despair. Indeed, they were unable to pacify one another. A long time passed in desperate lamentation until Srinivasacharya managed to calm himself and begin to pacify the others. Well, these books can't be replaced. There's no Xerox copies or, there's no thumb drives. This is not available. Back in those days, they were irreplaceable. Srinivas said, "On our long journey, we passed safely through many dangerous places, and yet here we accidentally fell asleep so that everything has been easily stolen. There must be some hidden purpose behind this incident." So he's showing some insight there, isn't he? Narottama das Thakur Mahashai again, respectful title, also took heart and said to himself, this must be a divine arrangement so that this country can receive some special mercy. Again, correct. At that very moment, the devotees heard a voice in the sky. Asharira Vak. That's how it's always described in the Bhagavatam. A disembodied voice from the sky. And the voice announced, do not worry. The books will soon be recovered. Shortly thereafter, someone whispered to Srinivasacharya, the king is the culprit, and so you should go to Vishnupur. That's his seat of his Rajya, of his kingdom. After hearing this, Srinivasacharya first tried his best to console his companions, and then he sent a letter to Vrindavan. At that time, he requested Narottama Das to go to Ketari, his own village, and he told Shyamananda Prabhu, go to Odisha by way of Ketari, Odisha. It's Jagannath Puri. I shall go to Vishnupur and try to recover the books. When I am able to do so, I will send you a letter to reassure you that the books are now in my hands. Don't worry, for I can understand that everything will come out all right. While saying this, Srinivasacharya bade farewell to Narottama das Thakur and Shyamananda Prabhu. It was impossible for them to disobey Srinivasacharya's order, and yet they could not conceal their grief when it was time for them to leave. Narottama Das and Shyamananda traveled together to Ketari, but then Narottama Das would not let Shyamananda proceed to Utkala. Utkala was the name that Orisha used to be called. In Vishnupur, Srinivasacharya bestowed his mercy upon King Viraham Vira, who then happily returned the books without any hesitation. Later, the king, along with all of his followers and family members, took shelter at the lotus feet of Srinivasacharya and became recognized as great devotees. So this is what was going on here, you know. Then I went up in there. Excuse me. It's not showing me. It's removing somebody's name from here. I don't know why. Okay. So that is that adventure, and they do recover the books. Okay, sorry. I don't know how to operate all this stuff on this particular program. Anyway, let me continue. Narottama Das Thakur traveled quickly, being very eager to reach Kardaha. This is another day. He became so excited upon entering the town of Kardaha that he lost his usual reserve. Mahesh Pandit and others rushed to greet Narottama Das when they saw him approaching. Why? Because in Kardaha lived Janava Devi and Vasudha Devi, the two wives of Nityananda. They were still alive. These ladies, these Devis, are manifestations of the goddess of fortune themselves. So he was about to meet them for the first time. And this is what they said. They rushed to greet Narottama when they saw him approaching. We were dying in separation from the Lord, they said, but now you have come to soothe our aching hearts, for you are like a cooling oasis. in the desert of misery. We have known about you for a long time and have heard about your travels to Vrindavan, the theft of the Goswami's manuscripts, and your visit to Navadvip. We are so happy to finally see you. While saying this, each of the devotees introduced themselves while Narottama Das tearfully worshipped their lotus feet. Pranam. Thereafter, the devotees took Narottama Das to the house of Nityananda Prabhu. When Vasudha Devi and Janava Devi were told of Narottama Das's arrival, they eagerly requested that he immediately be brought into the interior of the house. Upon entering, Narottama Das felt himself to be extremely fortunate. Yeah, no kidding. You're in Nityananda's house, meeting his wives. Can you imagine? Nityananda, Balaram himself. After worshipping the lotus feet of Janava Devi and Vasudha Devi, he bowed down at the lotus feet of Virabhadra Prabhu. Virabhadra is the son of Nitai, and another of his sons who turns up here in the story is Achyutananda. Those are the two that are commonly mentioned here. Upon seeing Narottama Das, Vasudha Devi and Janava could not conceal their overwhelming love for him. He certainly deserves the title Mahashai, they said. Out of affection, they kept Narottama Das with them for 4 days, and all the devotees of Kardaha came to meet him. Vasudha Devi, Janava Mata, and Virabhadra Prabhu could not bear to leave him for a moment. Energy, the beauty, the pure love just beaming, just emanating from Narottama Das. These are real high souls. They don't get any higher than this. This is Vishnu Shakti, Vasudha, and Janava. And they couldn't bear to be away from Narottama. The all-knowing Janava Thakurani privately spoke to Narottama Das, ordering him to go to Nilachala, Jagannath Puri, without further delay. And then the tag at the end of the chapter says, "He who attentively hears this narration of Narottama Das Thakur's journey in Bengal will have all of his desires fulfilled. Therefore, listen attentively." Says, as I, Narahari Das, narrate Narottama Vilas. I'm not going to get through all the stuff I have here, I'll tell you. Anyway, shall we go forward? So here's another excerpt where the people become enchanted by his presence, what seems to be the standard effect when he appears. Everyone who met Narottama Das became extremely pleased and glorified him by saying, Sri Krishna Chaitanya is the most merciful incarnation of the Godhead. Only his devotee is capable of displaying such transcendental attributes. As we see in this handsome young man, just see how gracefully he walks, how comforting it is to simply glance at his face. The people spoke in this way because they had become enchanted by the presence of Narottama Das Thakur. In the morning, when it was time for Narottama Das to resume his journey, crowds of people would swarm around him, following him as he walked. Narottama Das was unable to disperse the crowds, but eventually, with sweet words, he bid the people farewell and continued his journey, stopping only at those places where Lord Chaitanya had performed his pastimes. In Puri, while in Puri, Narottama had a dream. In his dream, Narottama Das saw Lord Chaitanya and his associates dancing in front of the chariot of Lord Jagannath. He saw Krishna Chaitanya, Nityananda, Advaita Acharya, Gadadhar Pandit, Srivas Pandit, Murari Gupta, Govinda Haridas Thakur, and it goes on, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. You know who Sarvabhauma is? There are two devotees in Chaitanya Leela that are planetary deity incarnations, planetary devas. The first is Sarvabhauma, who was the incarnation of whom? Do you know? Jupiter, Guru, Brihaspati, most auspicious planet of them all. So Sarvabhauma, who decided he was going to teach Vedanta Sutra to Sri Chaitanya, Chaitanya, by the time he finished going through, it took days for him to teach to him. And Chaitanya never said a word. At the end, Sarvabhauma looked at him, because Chaitanya was sitting there with this look on his face, like, and Sarvabhauma says, do you not understand how I've explained Vedanta? He says, do you not understand my explanation? Chaitanya says, no, I am familiar with Vedanta Sutra. I understand your explanation, but that's not what Vedanta Sutra means. You have some other explanation, because he gave him a Mayavadi, a monist view. I'm God, you're God, we're all God, we're all the same. We're all one. There's no difference. That's the philosophical angle that he took. Anyway, Chaitanya straightened him out shortly thereafter. The other planetary incarnation is Chandrasekhar Acharya, also known as Acharya Ratna. He is an incarnation of Chandradev, the moon. And he was present when Chaitanya took sannyas in Varanasi. Indeed, continuing on in the dream, Narottama saw all the devotees of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu from Bengal, Vraja, Odisha, and South India performing pastimes with the Lord. Who could describe the extraordinarily captivating beauty of this scene? Sri Gaurachandra danced in the middle, surrounded by all the devotees. Inspired by the Lord's presence, the devotees performed a most ecstatic sankirtan by joyfully dancing, singing, and playing musical instruments. The atmosphere was so spiritually surcharged that even the demigods came down from their heavenly abodes to enjoy the Lord's pastimes. As the sound of the sankirtan penetrated the ethers, the entire three worlds began to float on waves of happiness. My friends, when's the last time you floated on waves of happiness? Last time you did kirtan? Or when you were reading, as I was reading this morning, about these pastimes? Huge crowds of people eagerly pushed forward to get a glimpse of the Lord's beautiful dancing, as the demigods showered flowers upon his head. Even the lame, the blind, and the deaf suddenly forgot their handicaps and hurried to join the Sankirtan. Even stone-hearted people wept in joy upon hearing the melodious chanting of the Lord's holy names. Even animals and birds became restless. While standing at a distance, Narottama Das joyfully watched this wonderful scene as the tears rolled down his cheeks. Upon seeing Narottama Das still in the dream, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, in a trance of ecstasy, grabbed hold of his hands and mildly said, "You must manifest a new kind of kirtan that will have the potency to mesmerize the people. Through your songs and music, you should describe my pastimes and my mission. Do not worry about anything. All of your desires will be fulfilled." Beautiful. Go to Bengal as soon as possible and preach the glories of devotional service. Those who are fortunate enough to take shelter of you will receive the most precious wealth of love of God. Soon you will be joined by Ramachandra Kaviraj, the son of Chiranjiva, saying, what more can I say? I shall always take care of you. All of the devotees were extremely happy to see Chaitanya shower his mercy so profusely upon Narottama das Thakur. Chaitanya, Advaita Acharya, Gadadhar Pandit, Haridas Thakur, Sarvabhauma, etc., fell onto the ground in a pool of tears. At that time, Chaitanya's devotees consoled him, advising him to go to Bengal without delay. Suddenly, Narottama das Thakur awakened. Realizing that what he had experienced was a dream that had now ended, his mind became greatly perturbed. Somehow, Narottama Das managed to pacify himself enough so that he could finish his morning duties. Afterwards, Gopinath Acharya sent him with Shiki Mahiti to see Lord Jagannath's Arati, his Arati ceremony in the temple. As soon as Narottama Das Thakur began to think about going to Bengal, Lord Jagannath's garland fell from his neck. When the pujari came and gave the garland to Narottama considered this to be the Lord's indication that he should leave at once for Bengal. After bowing down at the lotus feet of Lord Jagannath, Narottama Das went to Gopinath Acharya's house. Before he could say anything, Gopinath Acharya told him, the Lord has ordered you to go to Bengal. After consulting some of the local pundits, a date was fixed for Narottama Das's departure. Yes, my friends, consulting the pundits for the most auspicious dates and times of day for beginning important work, important travel, important events. I want to speak of things like marriage, or starting even a business, or some kind of enterprise. Okay, Narahari, we're going to talk about here. Narahari was an associate of Chaitanya. Narahari Sarkar took Narottama Das on his lap and tearfully told him, I'm so happy to see you. In Chaitanya's absence, you will distribute love of God. He will distribute love of God through you. Many fallen souls will take shelter of you, and you will spread the Lord's message by manifesting a new style of kirtan. Again, new style of kirtan. In this way, all of your desires will be fulfilled by the mercy of Sri Chaitanya. Where does he go next, my friends? He goes to Ekachakra. This is the village of whom? Sri Nityanandaram. This is located, I believe, in what is now Bangladesh or East Bengal. While thinking of the lotus feet of Sri Nityananda Balaram, he started for the village of Ekachakra in Radhadesh. Radhadesh is the area. On the outskirts of the village, Lord Nityananda, in the guise of an elderly Brahmin, came and asked Narottama Das, what is your name? From whence have you come? Where will you go? And for what purpose? Kind of a nosy guy. He's asking him everything. This is Nityananda, disguised as an old Brahmin. Narottama Das replied, I am Narottama and I am coming from Jagannath Puri. I have come to see the birthplace of Lord Nityananda, whose parents were Padmavati and Harai Pandit. I want to see all the sacred places where Sri Nityananda performed his glorious pastimes. I live on the other side of the Padmavati river at Kaithari. From here, I will return home. While listening to Narottama Das's sweet words, the elderly Brahmin smiled. Without disclosing his real identity, he said, I know about all of these things. Come along with me and I shall show you all of the places you want to see. Yeah, I'm kidding. The Brahmin guided Narottama Das to a particular spot and said, see, This is the place where Nityananda and his friends enjoyed tending their cows like the Gopas did when Krishna was here. Nityananda roamed about this area holding his club and his plow. Here is the place where he performed Ram Leela. As Balaram performed his pastimes at Shvetadvip, Nityananda performed his pastimes here. Now let me show you the house of Harai Pandit, where Nityananda Roy was born. Here is the place where Nityananda held a snake. See, over there. That is where his Guru Karan ceremony was performed. He got his guru, yeah. Now look at this temple of Lord Vishnu where Nityananda used to worship. This is where the sannyasi came and ate prasad and afterwards begged Nityananda as alms from his father. He begged to take the boy with him, this sannyasi, to train him, to teach him, to train him up. This is the road by which the sannyasi and Nityananda left, followed by all the inhabitants of the village. At this spot, Nityananda's mother loudly lamented for her son who was going away. Over here, Harai Pandit rolled on the ground in anguish after losing his son. This kind of reminds you a little bit about when Dasharatha didn't want to let go of Ram and Lakshman when they were in their teens, and Vishvamitra came to teach them Raja Dharma and Shastra Dharma, teach them weaponry, and how to become sovereigns. Over here, so that here Padmavati Devi lay unconscious. That's his mother. Well, Harai Pandit consoled her. That's his parents. O Narottam, you should understand that the places that I'm showing you are beyond the vision of even the demigods. In this village, Ekachakra, Nityananda Roy still performs his pastimes, but only those who are fortunate can see him. He's talking to him. He just thinks he's talking to an old Brahmin. After saying this much, the elderly Brahmin vanished. He just vanished. The sudden disappearance of the Brahmin bewildered Narottama Das. What has happened? He thought. One moment he was here, and the next moment he vanished like a bolt of lightning in the sky. Now you see it, now you don't. Narottama Das became extremely restless while thinking, if I cannot see this Brahmin once again, I shall give up my life by entering fire. Not sure why he said that, but it sounds like kind of state of finality. Saying this, Narottama Das began to lament most pitifully. Nityananda Haladhar. Haladhar means holder of the plow. Yeah, he's a farmer. Who is an ocean of mercy, once again appeared before Narottama das Thakur in the guise of the elderly Brahmin. Disappeared, and now he's reappeared. This time, the Brahmin suddenly appeared as Balaram, carrying his club and plow, wearing a top knot in his hair, and dressed in beautiful blue garments. Now he appears as Balaram. Then suddenly, Lord Balaram disappeared and appeared as Nityananda Prabhu himself. Smilingly, he said to Narottama Das, you are my favorite devotee. I have no intention of deceiving you. Oh, yeah. Very soon, all of your desires will be fulfilled. However, do not disclose to anyone that you have seen me here. After saying this, Lord Nityananda Ram suddenly disappeared. Narottama das Thakur stood motionless like a statue, unable to move or to speak. That day he remained at Ekachakra, and the following morning, while glorifying Nityananda Prabhu, the king of Ekachakra, the son of Rohini, and the life and soul of the most fallen souls, Narottama das Thakur continued his journey. Well, my friends, I can't believe how little I've gotten through. Okay. Anyway, let's keep going for a bit longer. Somebody says here, the last time I floated was years ago. Okay, Robert. Well, you got to be chanting more intensely, my friend, so you can start to float again. Okay, sixth Valas, sixth chapter. The dream of the Chaitanya deity. At an auspicious moment, Narottama das Thakur crossed the Padmavati and entered Ketari, Padmavati River, entered his own village of Ketari. People from all corners of the village eagerly flocked to see him. Santosh Datta and some others greeted Sri Thakur Mahashai and arranged for him to stay in a solitary house. Nevertheless, in spite of its isolated location, the house was packed until evening with enthusiastic villagers eager for the darshan. The darshan means to see him, to have the vision, to see him in person. Darshan. To have the darshan of Narottama das Thakur. That evening, when Narottama Das was finally alone, he began to think seriously about his devotional service to Lord Krishna. Eventually, by the Lord's arrangement, he fell asleep late at night. Then, in a dream. You notice devotees, they get a lot of dreams. My wife gets all kinds of dreams. Jagannath. She's an advanced soul. I'm not that advanced. Prabhupada get dreams like this too. Bhaktisiddhanta would appear to him more than once in dreams. Told him to go to the West. Lucky for us, he did. Anyway, the dream things is big with devotees. Eventually, by the Lord's arrangement, he fell asleep. Then in the dream, the son of Sachi, Chaitanya, told him, "O Narottama, in the hopes of your coming here, I hid myself in the form of a brass deity in the warehouse of an influential landlord. Everyone knows him because he's a very rich man with many warehouses filled with rice. However, no one dares approach these storerooms because they are infested with poisonous snakes. In one of the larger buildings, I have concealed myself. Quickly, go there and bring me to your residence." Bring the deity of Chaitanya, brass deity. Yeah. The Lord also advised Narottama Das to have more deities made. There's actually a total of 5, which we'll find out, depending how long we go here. And then he vanished after embracing him in the dream. Narottama Das woke up with great excitement and found that it was still dark. He spent the rest of the night performing kirtan, and in the morning he quickly completed his devotional duties. He then asked some local people if they knew of a rich man who had many warehouses filled with rice that were infested by snakes. Everyone knew this man, and so Narottama Das requested some people to take him there. Thus, Narottama Das, along with a few others, went to the rich man's house. He was very happy to receive them. Without wasting time, Thakur Mahashai proceeded straight toward the largest warehouse. The rich man was horrified. He fell at Narottama Das's lotus feet and begged with folded hands. He begged him with folded hands. He says, "Everyone knows that these warehouses are infested with snakes. Many snake charmers have come here and tried to make them go away, but all of their attempts have failed. Long ago, I gave up all hope of getting rid of the snakes. Although I lost considerable money, I was forced to abandon all the buildings. I could not possibly allow you to go inside. It's too dangerous. Please tell me, what else can I do for you?" Narottama Das Thakur simply laughed and said, "Do not be anxious, my friend, for I shall clear the entire area of snakes. I have very important business to attend to within your warehouse. Afterwards, you will be happy to see what I bring out from your building." After saying this, Narottama Das walked towards the warehouse without hesitation, as the spectators trembled, looking on in fear. Then, when the snakes saw Sri Thakur Mahashai, Narottama, they immediately left the warehouse and slithered away. In a trance of ecstatic love, Narottama Das opened the door and found Navadvip Chandra, the deity, named Navadvip Chandra, the moon of Navadvip, along with his consort, Vishnu Priya. Chaitanya's wife was Vishnu Priya. So these are the two deities, brass deities, Chaitanya and his wife. Their bodies were fully decorated with ornaments, and their beauty was beyond compare. When Narottama Das picked up the deities and lovingly clasped them to his heart, he was suddenly jolted as if struck by a bolt of lightning. Everyone became spellbound upon seeing the deities and began shouting with joy. Someone remarked, It is not possible for an ordinary human being to perform such a miracle. Someone else said, Who can understand the stature of this personality? Because of his presence, our village has become blessed. Another person commented, If we are fortunate, perhaps we can receive his blessings. All of the people danced in ecstasy, calling out the name of Narottama. As Narottama Das Thakur carried the deities, a huge crowd followed him. When he came to his residence, he placed Lord Gauranga and his consort Vishnu Priya on a beautiful altar. With unblinking eyes, he stared at the Lord while crying incessantly. You know, one of the symptoms, if you see if a demigod comes down, a higher being from heavenly planets or from the spiritual world comes down, they don't blink. There's no shadow on the ground beneath them. Also, they don't wear clothes with seams. There's a few things. And there's this beautiful fragrance. I hope they appear to you. That's my wish. Suddenly a thought entered his mind and he began to sing a beautiful kirtan describing the glories of Chaitanya that he had written but not yet performed for others. Narottama Das sang and danced very gracefully, putting the Gandharvas to shame. Even the Mohammedans and the sinful atheists became mad with ecstasy while joining the kirtan that described the Lord's pastimes. Now, this is interesting. The atheists, you're referred to as sinful atheists. Well, why are atheists bad people? Well, I know lots of atheists. Some of them are nice people, but the reason it's explained like this is there's two things, ahankar and asuya. Why are they atheists? Because they're too caught up in their own egos. And asuya means envious. They're envious of God. And they don't want to bow down or accept the supremacy of God. So this is the concept behind ego and envy. The sound of kirtan spread throughout the entire world, and the demigods began to shower flowers from the heavens. Gandharvas and kinnaras remarked with astonishment, Who is this extraordinary person who has composed such a sublime and beautiful kirtan? Even we are not familiar with this style of singing. It appears as if the dance, the music, and the instruments have all become personified by the influence of his singing. Oh, yes, my friends. Everything is personal. You've read in Bhagavatam and in the books, Vishnu Shankha Chakra Gada Padma. He has the conch, the chakra, the disc, Gada, the club, and Padma, the lotus. These are also personifications. They can appear in front of him. So this too, a song could appear as a personification. Music can appear as such. Everything's personal. Just because you don't see it doesn't mean it doesn't exist. Trying to remove that. Anyway, we're almost, I guess I'm going to have to end it here fairly soon. Okay, I can't even get into all this, so unfortunately. So let me find something that I'd like to. A lot of pages, yeah. Going in another excerpt here. Narottama das Thakur and his associates happily accepted prasad and distributed it to all the villagers of Kaituri. And that day, many atheists, this time blasphemers, made fun of everybody, criticized verbally. Also had prasad in the association of devotees. Because of this, a change took place within their hearts. And they began to talk to their companions as follows: O brothers, how fruitless is our lives! Who will rescue us from the harsh judgment of Yamaraj, god of death? Only Thakur Narottama Das can save us. So anyway, they go on and they explain about they're ashamed of doing their sinful activities. And this also comes into like thieves and dacoits and highwaymen and people who prey upon the innocent. And many of them have become transformed by association with Narottama Das, by hearing his beautiful transcendental kirtan, his songs, his singing, his beautiful dancing, just melting hearts and clearing minds of all the inebrieties and the dark impressions we've accumulated. Well, why am I mentioning this in particular? Because if Jagai and Madai could be delivered, who are murderers and dacoits and carousers and whatever else, and here these people, blasphemers and atheists, were delivered, why not us? We're devotees, or at least we're open to the idea. We're favorable. We have open minds. We're learning about bhakti. Or some of us are very much dedicated bhakti devotees. So if these kinds of people were delivered and taken into the fold of love of God, then why not us, my friends? Why don't we deserve it? Why don't you deserve it? You do. So don't dismiss yourself and think, oh, I'm not worthy, I'm not good enough. I mean, in one sense, yeah, that's good. You should be humble and not think you're too important from that point of view. But don't think you're not worth saving or worth being delivered or worth being in Chaitanya Lila or in Krishna Lila. Because you are. How do we know that? What is proof positive of that? Because you're part and parcel of God. He's waiting. He's waiting for you to come home. When are you going to come? When are you going to go back home? All right. Okay. I guess I should wrap it up. Unfortunately, there's so much good stuff here. You know me and my pages. Let's all these people he delivered, just page after page. Let's do this. Let's just go right to the last page that I have here. One day, Thereafter, in the morning, Narottama das Thakur began to helplessly shed tears while sighing deeply. He lay down on the ground for some time, and his lotus-like face became pale. With a choked-up voice, he sang this song in great, great lamentation. He was feeling vipralamba, deep, deep separation from Chaitanya. How cruel is Providence to me? Where has Srinivas gone now? So his best friend Srinivas was gone. He died. Where is Srinivas gone now and giving me so much pain? I had Ramachandra's association. He was one of their associates. But he also left me so that I cannot hear a word from him any longer. Can I ever have him again in my life? My life has become useless. Sarup, Rupa, Sanatan, Raghunath, the Bhattas, please be kind to me. Acharya Srinivas. Anyway, he goes on and on. Why? I kept some jewels hidden under my cloth. Who has stolen them? Who has stolen my friends? Why is Narottama Das suffering so much? After singing this, Narottama Das remained silent, and everyone became aware of what would soon occur. Knowing the mentality of his dear disciples, Narottama Das Thakur consoled them. He then went to the courtyard of Gauranga's temple and once again dedicated himself to the lotus feet of the Lord. Afterwards, he departed for Vuduri with Govinda Kaviraj and some other devotees. He stayed there for one day, and Sri Govinda Chakravarti and others took the opportunity to meet him. After talking to them sweetly, he spent the rest of the day and the night performing kirtan. From Vuduri, Narottama Das went to Gamvila. After bathing in the Ganga, he sat in the water and ordered Ramakrishna and Ganga Narayan to massage his body. However, there was no chance for them to do so, because merely by the touch of their hands, Narottama Das Thakur's body melted and vanished in the Ganga. Melted away. Suddenly the river became turbulent, and everyone became puzzled. The demigod showered flowers from heaven upon this most astonishing disappearance of a pure devotee. The cry of Hari, Hari filled the air. Disciples of Sri Thakur Mahashaya then went to Ganga Narayan's house. Govinda Kaviraj and others quickly arranged for the funeral at Gamvila. They then hastily went to Ketari by way of Vuduri. There, King Narasingha, so you don't know how all these other people appeared, but here we are. Rupa Narayan, Krishna Singha, and goes on and on. King Santosh Roy, who was a wonderful king and took care of the devotees so lovingly. And others started preparations for a great festival. When the devotees started Sankirtan in the courtyard of the Gauranga temple, which was established by Narottama Das, they soon forgot their external identities and began to roll on the ground. They roared like lions and soaked the ground with their tears. Suddenly, due to the favor of their guru, Krishna, and the Vaishnavas, everyone had the chance to witness Narottama Das dancing with them in his spirit body. When he suddenly vanished, everyone lost their composure, and Narottama Das once again appeared to console them. Who can comprehend the transcendental qualities of Sri Narottama Das Thakur Mahashaya? Hare Krishna. Oh, there was so much more good stuff, but I guess we better leave it here, my friends. So let me say Haribol to Kim Duff. And I don't know, I can't get rid of this thing here. And to Praveen Yadav. R.B. Shukla. That's Camia. I guess that's all we got today. Dharmaram Kumawat. I can't read this. Gaya Yug. This computers are much smaller. From India. Yes, I know you are, my friend. Okay. R.B. Shukla. My friend Robert Kopany and Michael S. Gray. Thank you, Michael. Good to see you. Okay, my friends, I think I messed up with the time. I mean, we're on daylight savings time. It just shifted today. And I think when I put up my notice on Facebook, I didn't take it into consideration for the other places. So, again, my sincere apologies. I hope this has been somewhat inspirational for you. It's a wonderful, wonderful life of Narottama das Thakur. Such an amazing soul. Just, he's like love on wheels. Love of God, bhakti on wheels. Bhakti on wheels. Okay, my friends, look after yourselves. Stay close to Krishna's lotus feet. Take advantage of the Kartik Mas, the month of Kartik. And I'll see you, and I'm not sure when I'll see you next, but soon. Hare Krishna.